The unexpected alliance. In the depths of space, aboard the Cavalier, a state-of-the-art reconnaissance vessel, Captain Elias Turner sat at the helm, his eyes glued to the star-streaked void outside the viewport. The hum of the ship's engines was a constant, almost comforting sound in the background. It had been a quiet journey so far, the kind of quiet that only space could offer. But Captain Turner knew better than to relax. In his line of work, peace was often the prelude to something far less welcome. Approaching the target coordinates, Captain, the soft voice of his helmsman, Lieutenant Tessa Bray, cut through the silence. The familiar sound of her calm professionalism grounded him, even as his mind raced with thoughts of what was to come. "We're about to enter unknown territory," Turner muttered under his breath, adjusting the readout on his console. They were heading toward an uncharted moon, a dead planet with nothing but old rumors and theories surrounding it. However, intelligence had reported strange energy readings from this area, enough to make it worth investigating. Unknown species, potentially hostile forces, and perhaps, if they were lucky, a discovery that could tilt the balance of power in the galaxy. But Turner wasn't going alone on this mission. Far from it. Seated beside him, in the co-pilot's chair, was Xel'vor, an alien from the fierce Xel'vor species. Xel'vor were a race of tall, muscular beings with an intimidating appearance. Tough, rugged, and utterly devoted to their brutal code of honor. They were known throughout the galaxy as warriors, conquerors, and hunters, always willing to fight for dominance. When Turner had first encountered Xel'vor in a firefight a few months ago, he never expected they would be standing side by side as partners, much less allies. But the galaxy was full of surprises, and necessity often made strange bedfellows. Xel'vor was a giant by human standards, towering over Turner by a full foot, his blue skin marred by scars that spoke of years of battle. His yellow eyes glowed faintly in the dim light of the ship, an unsettling reminder of the violence lurking beneath the calm exterior. He said little, always direct, always business. His presence in the cockpit was a silent challenge, the kind that only Xel'vor warriors seemed capable of exuding. "You know, I still don't understand why they paired us together for this," Turner said, trying to break the silence as he glanced over at Xel'vor. The Xel'vor didn't respond immediately. He never did. Xel'vor wasn't the conversational type. Finally, he broke the silence, his deep voice like a rumble in the back of Turner's mind. "You know why," Xel'vor said simply. "We have common enemies. That is all that matters." Turner sighed and leaned back in his chair. The uneasy truce between humans and that Xel'vor was fragile, built on necessity rather than trust. The Xel'vor had always been the enemy, the ones humans had fought in countless wars. But now, with the Dominion on the horizon, an even greater threat, their cooperation had become a matter of survival. Turner didn't like it, but he was practical enough to recognize when an alliance was necessary. Their mission was clear: investigate the strange energy signatures emanating from a seemingly barren moon. The intelligence had been vague on specifics, but Turner had enough experience to know that vagueness often meant danger. And when Xel'vor was involved, that danger was amplified tenfold. Xel'vor didn't do things half-heartedly. They didn't just investigate. They conquered. They dominated. Turner wasn't sure if Xel'vor had fully embraced their partnership, or if he saw this mission as just another opportunity to test his strength. "We're here." Bray's voice broke the tension as the ship's engine shifted gears, bringing them into orbit around the barren moon. Its surface was a patchwork of craters and jagged ridges, shrouded in an ever-present layer of mist. Xel'vor's gaze shifted from the view outside the cockpit to Turner, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. "We land now, human. Your species will want to avoid getting caught in the storm. These storms on the surface are unpredictable," Xel'vor warned, his tone carrying an edge of concern that was rare for someone of his species. Turner raised an eyebrow. "You worried about me?" Xel'vor's lips curled into a faint, humorless smile. "I'm worried about the mission. We cannot afford failure." The ship descended through the thick cloud cover, turbulence making the vessel shake slightly as they breached the atmosphere. The view from the viewport was nothing short of mesmerizing, a landscape of swirling fog and glowing blue streaks of lightning. The ground below was inhospitable, rocky, and cracked, like the surface of a long-dead planet, scared by centuries of neglect. The Cavalier set down gently on the surface, its landing gear hissing as it touched down. Turner stood up, grabbing his equipment, and Xel'vor followed suit, moving with the precision of a battle-hardened soldier. Together, they moved toward the exit, stepping onto the moon's dusty surface. The air was thick with tension as they made their way toward the coordinates provided by their mysterious contact. Xel'vor, with his keen senses, led the way, his sharp eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. Turner kept pace, his rifle at the ready. Despite the tension in his chest, he couldn't help but admire that Xel'vor's quiet confidence. There was something about Xel'vor's presence that both unsettled and intrigued him. The silence of the surface was deafening, broken only by the sound of their footsteps. And yet, despite the stillness, Turner couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. His hand instinctively went to the comms unit on his wrist. He clicked the button, but the screen flickered and sputtered before going dark. "Damn it," Turner muttered, glancing over at Xel'vor. "Something wrong?" Xel'vor asked, his voice low. "Comms are down. We're on our own," Turner said. Xel'vor didn't reply. Instead, he simply nodded, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched between them, but Turner knew it wasn't just the comms that were the problem. There was something more to this mission than anyone had let on. Something was watching them, something that wasn't quite human. The further they went, the more the landscape seemed to shift. The once still air became charged, the faint crackle of static electricity growing louder. Suddenly, Xel'vor froze. His yellow eyes narrowed as he scanned the horizon. "Get down," he barked. Before Turner could react, Xel'vor was already moving, tackling him to the ground just as a sharp, piercing noise tore through the silence. From the rocky outcrop above them, a series of bright red lasers streaked through the air, narrowly missing their heads. The Xel'vor was on his feet in an instant, drawing his massive energy blade, its edge glowing with intensity. "Ambush," Xel'vor growled. "We're not alone." Turner scrambled to his feet, rifle aimed and ready. But before they could retaliate, the sound of approaching figures echoed from behind them. They were surrounded. "Stay close," Xel'vor commanded, his voice low but firm. "The enemy is crafty. They will try to overwhelm us." A figure emerged from the mist, a humanoid silhouette, tall and cloaked. Its skin was dark, almost black, and its eyes glowed with a faint, unsettling blue light. The creature raised its hands, and in an instant, the surrounding mist seemed to come alive, swirling around them with purpose. "Prepare yourselves, humans," the figure said, its voice cold and distant. "This will be your final test." The hidden enemy. The mist swirled around them, the air dense and charged with an eerie stillness. Captain Elias Turner instinctively tightened his grip on his plasma rifle, his eyes darting around the rocky terrain. The threat was real now. There was no more pretending that this was just a routine mission. The figure in front of them, dark and cloaked, stood like a sentinel, watching with glowing blue eyes. Behind them, the mist shifted, revealing more figures, strange, humanoid, and unsettlingly silent. They moved like shadows, their forms blending seamlessly with the fog, making it almost impossible to discern their numbers. "Stay alert," Turner muttered to Xel'vor, his voice barely a whisper. The Xel'vor warrior was already on edge, his yellow eyes scanning the horizon, his massive energy blade flickering with a faint, dangerous glow. Xel'vor nodded slightly, his furrowing brow signaling his readiness. "We are surrounded. Prepare for an attack, human." Turner took a slow, measured breath. This was no ordinary ambush. These creatures, whatever they were, seemed prepared. They were calculated, They had a plan. And their weapons, those bright red lasers, could easily disintegrate anything they touched. But what were they after? What did they want with them? "Who are you?" Turner called out, his voice steady but carrying a note of authority. "What do you want with us?" The cloaked figure stepped forward, raising its hand, and the surrounding mist parted, revealing an intricate symbol etched into the earth in a ring-like formation. The symbol glowed faintly, pulsing as if alive. The air grew heavier, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with a strange energy. The figure didn't speak at once. It simply stood there, unmoving, its face still concealed by its cloak. "I see you found our territory," the figure finally said, its voice low but laced with a chilling calm. "I would say welcome, but you are not truly welcome here." Turner's heart began to race. This wasn't a simple encounter with rogue smugglers or hostile wildlife. It was something far more dangerous, and the figure's words only confirmed his suspicion. "You've invaded our domain, human," the figure continued, "and for that, you will pay." Before Turner could react, the ground beneath them shifted violently. A deep rumbling reverberated through the rocks, and from the depths of the mist, a series of massive figures emerged. They were towering, their dark forms outlined by the faint glow of the symbols, their eyes burning like coals in the darkness. These creatures were not human, nor were they any species Turner had ever encountered. They were large, their muscles bulging beneath their dark, leathery skin, with elongated limbs and jagged spines running down their backs. Their faces were a twisted blend of reptilian and insectoid features, sharp mandibles, pointed snouts, and 6 eyes that blinked in unison. "Move!" Xel'vor barked as he stepped forward, his energy blade raised. The Xel'vor was no stranger to battle, and his instincts were quick to react. In a flash, he slashed his blade through the air, cutting through the mist, and carving a glowing arc of energy that collided with the first of the towering creatures. The creature howled in pain, stumbling backward, but it was far from done. "Retreat!" Turner shouted, his rifle raised. But his words barely carried over the roar of the creatures. The battle had begun. The mist closed in as the massive figures surrounded them, their claws clicking against the stone ground. The Xel'vor were ferocious in combat, but these creatures were not easy prey. They were agile, faster than expected, and their sharp mandibles snapped threateningly as they advanced. Turner's rifle erupted with a burst of plasma, striking one of the creatures square in the chest. It screeched and staggered back, smoke rising from the burn mark. But the creature wasn't finished. It roared and lunged, its claws scraping the rock beneath it as it tried to swipe at Turner. Before Turner could react, Xel'vor was there, his blade meeting the creature's claws with a spark of energy. The Xel'vor warrior fought with a primal, almost savage intensity. His blade sliced through one creature's arm, sending it crashing to the ground in a heap. But the others were relentless, pressing forward with an almost eerie coordination. Xel'vor's voice was low but deadly as he continued to strike. "These are not ordinary enemies, human. They are coordinated. This is no random attack." Turner fired again, but his shots were met with resistance. The creature's hide was thick, and the plasma shots only seemed to irritate them rather than stop them. "Any ideas?" Turner shouted as one of the creatures darted toward him, its claws aiming for his chest. Xel'vor didn't hesitate. In a blur of movement, he grabbed the creature's arm mid-swipe and drove his energy blade into its side. The creature let out a final, guttural scream before crumbling to the ground. Xel'vor stepped over its lifeless body, his expression cold. "Something more than just battle is going on here," Xel'vor muttered, glancing at the cloaked figure that had remained unmoving at the center of the attack. The figure spoke again, its voice laced with a dark amusement. "You may have the strength to fight, but you are still outsiders. You do not belong in this domain." "Who are you?" Turner demanded, his finger tight on the trigger of his rifle. "What are you doing here?" The cloaked figure stepped forward slowly, the mist parting around it. As it moved, the symbols on the ground began to glow more intensely, casting an eerie light on the creatures surrounding them. The figure's face was revealed, pale, with elongated features that looked almost human, but its eyes were something else entirely. They were black, like endless voids, swallowing all light that dared approach. "We are the Erythians," the figure said with a cold smile, "guardians of this world. And now, you will leave, or you will die." Turner felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Erythians. He had heard the name before. A long-forgotten species, extinct, or so everyone thought. The legends spoke of their power, an ancient race that had once ruled this planet with an iron fist, but had disappeared after a catastrophic war. Yet here they were, standing before him, as if they had never left. Xel'vor's yellow eyes glowed with suspicion as he took a step forward. "Guardians, you protect this place. Then why attack us?" "We protect what is ours," the Erythian responded. "That Xel'vor are a primitive, violent species, and you, human, are no different. You've trespassed into a place you don't understand. Now you will face the consequences of your arrogance." Before Turner could respond, the Erythian raised its hand, and the ground trembled again. The mist seemed to grow darker, swirling violently around them. The energy in the air crackled as if charged with something ancient and dangerous. "You will leave this place," the Erythian hissed, "or we will make you wish you never came." The mist surged forward, and the creatures around them growled in unison, their eyes glowing bright with anticipation. Turner could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. They were caught between an ancient enemy and a brutal, unforgiving world. The stakes had just risen dramatically. Xel'vor, his grip on his energy blade tightening, stepped up beside Turner. "We fight, human," he said, his voice cold and resolute. "There is no turning back now." The heart of the storm. The atmosphere had shifted. The air, once dense with mist, now pulsed with a strange energy, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. The Erythians stood before them, enigmatic and terrifying, their glowing eyes reflecting the centuries-old hatred, as if the very idea of a human and a Xel'vor standing before them was an affront to their long-held dominion over this forgotten world. "Leave now." The leader of the Erythians spoke again, his voice commanding and low, a tone that reverberated through the air with an almost physical weight. "You have no place here. You are trespassers on sacred ground." Captain Elias Turner's grip tightened around his rifle. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of the encounter. These creatures, these Erythians, were a lost species, a name spoken of in hushed tones across the galaxy. The legend said they were the first to command this world, but their presence here, after so many centuries of presumed extinction, meant that their reign hadn't ended, or perhaps it had never truly ended at all. Xel'vor, ever the stoic warrior, seemed unfazed by the Erythians' threat. He stood tall, his broad shoulders casting a shadow even in the dim light of the misty planet, his yellow eyes locked on the leader of the Erythians. The Xel'vor's energy blade hummed quietly, almost eagerly, in his hand. "You speak of us as though we are the ones invading," Xel'vor said, his voice booming with authority. "Your kind are not the only ones to have fought for dominance over this land. I've seen the blood of my people spilled for less, but we do not bow." The leader of the Erythians cocked his head, the slight movement indicating some measure of curiosity. "You think yourself worthy of standing against us, Xel'vor. You are as fragile as the rest of your kind." His voice held contempt, but it wasn't just directed at Xel'vor. It was for everything that had come before them, including humanity. Turner could feel it, the centuries of pride and ancient power that seemed to radiate from the Erythian like a living, breathing force. "You still don't understand," the Erythian continued, his voice carrying the weight of ages. "This world is not merely a home for us. It is a tomb. The tomb of those who dared challenge us. the tomb of the galaxy's most ambitious species, the ones who believe they could rise above us. And now, you are stepping into our final rites." Turner's mind reeled. A tomb. What was this Erythian talking about? Was it a threat or something more? He opened his mouth to respond, but Xel'vor's sharp gaze stopped him. The Xel'vor knew better than to engage in a war of words with an ancient species. These beings were not like any of the enemies they had faced before. "Do not waste your breath on empty words, human," Xel'vor said, his voice like gravel. "We have come for the truth, and we will take it by force, if necessary." The Erythian's face twisted into an expression of barely contained disdain. "If it is the truth you seek, then let it be the last truth you will ever know." With that, the ground beneath their feet began to shake violently, the mist rising in torrents, as if something deep beneath the planet's surface were stirring. Turner felt a chill creep up his spine, the world around him beginning to shift, warp in ways that defied all logic. And then, the full scope of their danger became clear. In a series of swift movements, the Erythian leader raised his hand to the sky, and the ground cracked open with a deafening roar. From the depths, an enormous force surged upward. An ancient mechanical structure, partially buried for millennia, slowly began to emerge from the earth. It was a massive citadel, its towering spires reaching high into the atmosphere, black and jagged like the bones of some colossal beast. Xel'vor stepped back, his eyes narrowing. This is no ordinary ruin. The mist receded, revealing the full extent of the fortress that had risen from beneath the surface. It was a place of unimaginable size, its walls covered in strange, alien symbols that flickered and pulsed like living tattoos. The air around it hummed with an unnatural energy that made the hairs on the back of Turner's neck stand up. "This is where it all began," the Erythian leader said, his voice almost reverent now. "This is the heart of the Erythian Empire, and it is here that you will find the truth of why we left the galaxy, and why you will never be allowed to leave this world alive." Turner's pulse quickened. The citadel was not just an ancient ruin. It was a symbol of something far older, something far more dangerous than anything they had encountered in all their years of military service. This was a place of power, a place of ancient technology, and now it was waking up. Xel'vor's hand tightened around his energy blade. "We must destroy it. Now." Before Turner could respond, the Erythian leader gave a cold, soft chuckle. "Destroy it? You do not even know what you're dealing with. Xel'vor, this is no mere relic of the past. This is a weapon that has slumbered for centuries, and it will make both of you wish you had never set foot here." The ground beneath them trembled again, and Turner could feel the weight of the planet itself shifting. Something was coming, something far worse than just the Erythians, far beyond even the vast and terrifying Xel'vor. "We've made a mistake," Turner muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "We should never have come here." Xel'vor shot him a sharp look. "It's too late for regrets, human." With a single movement, Xel'vor lunged forward, his energy blade cleaving through the air toward the Erythian leader. But the leader was faster, raising his hand and causing the ground to erupt in front of him, creating a barrier of energy that deflected Xel'vor's blow. "You think you can challenge me?" The Erythian sneered. "I have watched civilizations rise and fall for eons. I have seen entire fleets burn and die at my feet. What hope do you have?" But even as the words left the Erythian's mouth, something unexpected happened. The air above them crackled violently, and a blinding flash of light struck the center of the citadel. The ground shook, and the symbols carved into the citadel's walls flared to life, sending waves of energy into the atmosphere. A deep, resonant voice echoed from within the structure, a voice that vibrated through the very air around them. "The time has come." Turner's eyes widened as the air around him seemed to warp. Something in the heart of the citadel was awakening, something that would change everything. The Erythian's eyes widened too, but not in fear. There was a flicker of recognition, and perhaps something like awe. "It has begun," the Erythian leader said, his voice now trembling slightly. "We are no longer in control." And then, as the sky darkened and the world shifted around them, everything went silent.